I did catch part of that. Yes, yes.
Well,
It is a critical moment.
the eternal topic.
Eternal topic with seemingly no solution, but there are solutions.
The country that put a man on the moon can't figure out how to reduce wait times.
You know, I don't know. Do we have any CBP people here today?
I don't know.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they'd said, you know what? And I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say who it was, but they said, you know, CBP does not want to reduce wait times. That's in their you know, their marching orders. But you know, that's just one opinion. We can discuss it at some other time.
Yeah, incidentally, I noticed that there's an executive order about U.S. agencies providing improved customer service. We ought to look into those.
That's correct.
The GAO has come up with several reports on staffing at CBP and what the needs are. And I read the last one. It was a scathing report on what that needs to happen there. I don't know if our congressional delegation and Congress in general follows up on these things. They should. I believe they do. These are very serious documents that they produce, and they're well done.
Good. Well, that's a topic we'll keep reoccurring. Hector and Zach, how are we doing on attendance?
We have 12 members in attendance. We just need one more to connect.
Okay, I wonder if we should go ahead and start.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, we have quorum already.
Okay, good.
Hector, Sara Moga Alemani from the city of San Diego, shouldn't she be?
Yes, I'm promoting her.
Okay.
And with that, we have a quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'd like to, this is Paul Ganster, Chair of Cobra. I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of Cobra. Please note simultaneous interpretation services are available. So I'd like to ask our interpreter to explain how this feature works. So if you'll go ahead and do that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Ganster. As Dr. Ganster indicated, we do have interpretation available. I will begin with instructions in Spanish, and we'll come back with the instructions in English. Muy buenas tardes. Está ofreciendo servicio de interpretación simultánea para esta reunión. Para hacer uso del mismo, solo desplácese la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen sus controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, parece un globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione primero los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Por último, si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio o silenciar audio original. Once again, we do have interpretation available, and we may have one of the presentations and or comments in Spanish. So we ask monolingual English speakers to take advantage of the feature. To do so, please scroll down to the bottom of your Zoom screen where your meeting controls are. Then click on the interpretation icon. It looks like a little world. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, or other mobile device, first press the ellipsis, the three dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Thank you, Dr. Ganster.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we do have a quorum, so let's move on with some instructions for Cobra members. Please note, if you're a Cobra member, you're not automatically muted by the meeting organizer, so you will have to mute and unmute yourself so that we don't get extraneous noise. In addition, when you would like to speak, please turn on your camera or raise your hand by opening the participants panel on the Zoom toolbar and clicking raise hand. Once I see you, or when Hector or Zach sees you, you'll be recognized at that time. For members of the public who would like to speak on an item, during the appropriate time, please use the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar. When you're called, you will be unmuted by Sandag staff. If you're calling in by phone, you may need to enter *6 to unmute yourself. After your comments, you'll be muted by Sandag staff. If you're calling into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone if you'd like to comment on an item. All comments, whether emailed or live, will be made part of today's meeting record. Are there any questions about this process? Okay, well, after 20 months into the pandemic, our land border crossing is recovering a sense of normalcy with the usual wait time issues, as we're discussing informally earlier. And travel restrictions have been lifted for vaccinated travelers, but nonetheless, we face some uncertainty as things continue to unfold regarding the pandemic. Preliminary numbers are indicating that land border crossings are reaching or surpassing the volume seen in pre-COVID days. And congestion at the ports continues to be high. A number of things that we've learned from the COVID pandemic is, among many, many things, is that first of all, we really are a huge cross-border community formed by San Diegans or Americans who may live in Mexico but come back to the U.S. every day, plus thousands and thousands of crossers of Mexicans who live in Tijuana and elsewhere in Baja California and commute to work in San Diego. And this community of people who need to cross the border is growing, and this is going to be a continuing challenge for us in the future. 2022 should be a big year for our border. Sandag's new 2021 regional plan includes significant opportunities for our shared border region, with mobility hubs in the works, including the one at San Ysidro that we'll hear about as part of today's agenda. Complete transportation corridors, South Bay to Sorrento, for example, includes the future Purple Line, a connection from CBX to Lindbergh Field. There's also a social equity action plan that envisions free transit for all by 2030. And of course, the future Otay Mesa East port of entry is moving along nicely. Another major regional infrastructure project or set of projects will be sanitation investment for the issue of the Tijuana River and sewage flows across the river and into the ocean. Well, between all of these projects, our border region will see a very, very large investment of infrastructure in our region. And that will certainly give us a big boost. Mexico has also been investing over $50 million to repair its sewage pump system and is planning to improve its main water treatment plants. Also, the president of Mexico, President López Obrador, announced the investment of about $500 million in a new highway that will connect the Tijuana airport to Playas de Tijuana, closing a missing link in the circulation system for the city of Tijuana. So we have many positive things, even though there are many challenges. And let me just, before we move to the agenda, make a comment about the essential citizens, essential workers who kept us working throughout the pandemic. And of course, the County of San Diego and the public health efforts, the consuls general of Mexico in the US and of the US in Tijuana have been very instrumental at facilitating efforts such as the vaccination program for border workers. So let's move on to the agenda. First of all, do we have any comments from members of the public or members of the committee? Please turn on your camera or let us know at this time. Hector or Zach, do we have any?
Yeah, Lauda has his hand
comments?
is up. Feel free, Lauda.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Excuse me. As we all already know, the San Diego Tijuana region has won World Design Capital for 2024. I think it is a subject very much in context with this group and the goal of this meeting. As Paul mentioned, there are several projects on the way in infrastructure, but we believe that World Design Capital 2024 gives us a huge opportunity to build an infrastructure of constant work together as a unit. So we had a meeting with World Design Organization on Friday, and we will have more information shortly. But I would really ask this group to keep a close eye and make sure that we all, pitch in to do what's best for our communities here in our binational region. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I think that would be an appropriate topic to go into at one of our future Cobra meetings so that all Cobra members understand what's going on with that very innovative effort. Other comments by Cobra members or members of the public?
I don't see any hands. Chair Genster.
Okay, well, let's move on then to item 2, which is the approval of the minutes from May 4th, 2021, July 6th, 2021, and October 5th, 2021. And I think you've all received copies of those in your packet. So I would need a motion to approve and a second. And if we have any discussion, we'd like to hear that as well.
I move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
second that.
I guess we have a second too, don't we?
We do. It sounded like a tie. Does somebody want to second that again?
Either Gustavo de la Fuente or myself, we both seconded at the same time.
Thanks, Viviana. I guess
You're
we'll give it a
welcome.
second.
Well, all in favor, can you just signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So the motion carries unanimously. Do we have any comments on the minutes from the public or from the staff? If
Don't
not,
see any.
let's move right into a presentation on the San Ysidro Mobility Hub by our own Zach Hernandez. Zach?
Thank you, Chair Genster. Give me one quick second so I can get set up. I've got maybe a million tabs open. Start sharing here. Can you let me know if you're all seeing the slide in full screen?
It's in presenter mode.
Oh, thank you. Let me switch that. Okay. Are we seeing it now in full screen?
No, Zach.
Nope.
Okay. Tricky.
There you go.
I have it.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right. Now that we're ready, thank you, Chair Ganster. Thank you, Cobra members and all those in attendance today. As Chair Ganster mentioned, my name is Zach Hernandez. I'm a planner here at Sandag. We're really excited today to be presenting on basically an introduction to our San Ysidro Mobility Hub planning effort that we've been getting ready for behind the scenes, especially obviously for this particular group, as it has everything to do with the border, advancing transformative projects to make moving across the border, moving to and from the border better and more efficient. But bear with me, I'm juggling a couple things, trying to help run the logistics of the meeting. Also a little under the weather at home today, but hopefully get through this in a good amount of time. But to start out, I just want to read a short excerpt directly from the 2021 regional plan that we as Sandag kind of feel captures our understanding of the binational identity. So this is from chapter 1 of the plan that's out, and it reads, the San Diego region's history would never be complete or its potential fully realized without the invaluable and indispensable influence of our shared border with the United States of Mexico, Estados Unidos Mexicanos, and the close ties between the San Diego and Tijuana metropolitan areas. For many people in the US and Mexico, cross-border travel is essential for visiting friends and relatives, shopping, medical care, working, vacationing, and going to school. And it's all these ties that bind us that have had our border region growing stronger into now and into the future. So all the ways that the border enriches our daily life in the region is made possible by these partnerships and these relationships that we develop with our neighbors. And these critical partnerships for us in San Diego require us to think in terms of the mega region that we find ourselves in. The California, Baja California, or Cali-Baja mega region encompasses San Diego and Imperial counties in the US and the state of Baja California in Mexico. And in total, it's currently home to over 7.3 million people, more than 3.2 million jobs, and it has an economic edge that is sought out by industries across the entire world. And it's through that lens and understanding that we've developed strategies within the 2021 regional plan, all of which require continued support for and leveraging of those relationships to become even more globally competitive as a region. So this slide shows how the project fits within the larger planning scope and the themes that are embedded in the 2021 regional plan, which we're really excited is going to go to our board for approval on December 10th, so this Friday. And at the broadest level, you can see we have the 2021 regional plan and the 5 big moves. And this sets the stage and informs the types of transformative projects and initiatives that we anticipate are going to take our regional system into the future. And this is all built around connecting communities with more efficient travel options, more competitive mode choices, and technology solutions to better manage and orchestrate the regional system. And then we focus on specific corridors within the region with the ongoing comprehensive multimodal corridor plans, which is the name, as the name suggests, gives a more detailed look at how we can improve travel along key corridors through the lens of the 5 big moves. And as we develop solutions for each corridor, the localized level becomes a little bit more clear. And that's where we see the San Ysidro Mobility Hub kind of embedded in these overarching planning efforts. And it's an example of how we're going to go from regional plan, which is going to go to our board, as I mentioned, this Friday. Hopefully that the plan gets adopted. And then once we get to implementation of that plan, the San Ysidro Mobility Hub effort is going to be one of the first kind of poster childs for that. So while these planning efforts are underway and we're always trying to address the next challenge or the ongoing challenges, the region has made substantial investments in border infrastructure, and those have actually made a real difference in how you can get across efficiently. And on the screen are just a few examples of projects that have or will soon improve mobility to and from our border through either modernizing the region's ports of entry, better connecting them to roadways and new multimodal facilities to serve them. And all of this and the hard work that goes into it has gone a long way towards making it easier. So we know previous investments have helped, but we also know that the challenge faced by border crossers is definitely unique, to say the least. And if these photos are triggering or a little bit maddening, I apologize for that, but they do help paint a picture. And as part of the recently completed impacts of border delay study, which this group heard a bit about earlier this year, it was estimated that delays experienced at the Baja California ports of entry just in the year 2016 resulted in nearly 3.4 billion in annual losses to economic output, more than 88,000 foregone jobs. And it also resulted in over 166,800 metric tons of CO2 emissions. That's just in 1 year. And to put that into perspective, that's equivalent to the economic impact of nearly 23 Comic-Con conventions, job loss the size of nearly 15 Fashion Valley malls, and as much CO2 as 1 year of driving for over 36,000 passenger vehicles for an entire year. And all of that is only part of the story, and that's somewhat of a backdrop to the project that we're discussing today. And as we know, many times the border represents a gateway or a checkpoint on a longer cross-border trip. And the journey to the ultimate destination is where the efficiency of the regional transportation system really comes into play. So the San Ysidro port of entry, as we know, has for decades been, a true workhorse and transportation hub. And the adjacent transit center over the decades has evolved along with the increased usage and traffic, largely driven, as we know, by population growth, both in Northern Baja as well as Southern California, increasing economic activity and integration of people's livelihoods on either side of the border. So we've seen it evolve over the years. Fast forward to today, and it'd be really hard to understate how critical this asset is to the 3,000 or so San Ysidro community residents, the region, and tens of thousands in the Binational community who cross each day. Currently, 1 in 5 people who cross into the US via land are doing so at the San Ysidro port of entry. And prior to COVID and the related travel restrictions, which we're happy are now lifted for vaccinated travel, there were over 14,000 boardings on either a trolley or a bus happening there daily. So we know there's huge opportunities here, and we are ready to move on them. And so with this project, we're looking to build on many things. For one, the extensive planning work that has been done over the years that the community has been heavily involved in. Also, the expressed desire of that community and region at large to see changes made for improving the physical space and for safety and efficiency at that transit center. And the recent investments that have transformed the border crossing itself just recently when it was modernized. So we'll be developing a strategy to reconfigure and upgrade the San Ysidro Transit Center to improve operations, address mobility and safety issues, kind of in the near term. And we'll use all that information to develop design concepts for the future San Ysidro Mobility Hub that's planned in our 2021 regional plan. And we'll be doing so through lots of engagement with stakeholders, industry, and the community to help us develop those ideas. So to highlight the proposed project itself, I'll briefly touch on some of the key tasks that we have planned out. One important early action would be to identify a preferred trolley alignment and additional near-term solutions for improving operations at the site, like as I said, in the near term. And to help expedite those near-term goals, we're going to be carrying out some preliminary engineering activities. So it won't necessarily just be staying in the planning realm when it comes to the near-term things that we can turn dirt on sooner rather than later. And we're also planning to involve industry and the community in the process through releasing a public request for information, an RFI, to gather design ideas for the future San Ysidro Mobility Hub. So we'll then be developing and further refining alternative mobility hub design solutions using that big pool of design concepts and ideas and innovations that hopefully the design world and community at large help us come up with. We'll be putting those together in a package of alternatives and coming up with a phasing and implementation strategy to guide us there. And throughout the process, we'll be conducting stakeholder engagement to gather input from the public, all the relevant local, state, federal agencies on both sides of the border, community-based organizations, regional and local chambers of commerce, EDCs, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very long, extensive list of stakeholders. And I'll explain just a little bit about the design concepts. And if you've been clued into our board meetings or other policy advisory committee meetings, or borders committee, you've heard Hassan, Colleen, Ray Trainer talk about throughout the development of our 2021 regional plan, that the vision includes several mobility hubs throughout the region. And these are all going to offer a high convergence of transit service types, a mix of land uses, connecting services like rideshare, shuttles, micromobility, and supporting amenities to enhance the travel experience throughout the surrounding neighborhood. And we know the best solutions are the kind that reflect sensitivity to the community context, but are flexible enough to innovate. So with this project, we're going to be making sure that we're The mobility hub design concepts explored are innovative as well as inclusive. In terms of timeline, we anticipate being able to get started with this process in the coming months. All in all, it looks like this is probably going to be about an 18-month process. But as I explained, there's kind of these milestones or benchmarks in that 18 months that we're really excited to finalize, put together, and then share with the public, have the public be part of that process to develop all those things. But up to today, we've basically cleared the last kind of board action requisite kind of approvals that we needed from both SANDAG and MTS. MTS is providing a lot of the funding for this initial phase, so we had to get board approval from both SANDAG and MTS to make this a real project, which we're happy to announce finally is. But I do want to point out to folks for listening today that if you're really interested in getting involved and being part of the process, after we get the consultants who are going to be supporting this process on board, which we think will probably happen in the January timeframe, that's when we'll begin to strategize and develop an outreach plan. Once we have that outreach plan, the process for outreach, stakeholder engagement, et cetera, can really begin in earnest. And we can anticipate it being, a very robust and inclusive approach to outreach. Obviously, given the unique nature of this project, the context, and the wide array of stakeholders that this project touches. So please look forward to more on that as we work to set up kind of the public presence and online platforms for this project. So with that, I'll just conclude. If anybody has questions, I encourage you to reach out to me. My contact info is here on this slide. So thanks again for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, do we have any questions for Zach from board members or members of the audience?
There's one hand, is one of the members, Jason Wells.
Jason?
Followed by
yeah,
Gustavo
I'm sorry, I
Lafuente.
wasn't sure that was my name. Good afternoon, Zach. Thank you for the presentation. Really, just a quick comment, and thanks SANDAG and the Borders team with Hector for all their work on this. I just want to say, now is going to be the fun part. If social equity truly is part of SANDAG's mission now, then we're going to see this project should at least be the first mobility hub built, at best be, constructed within 5 years and not 50, like often San Ysidro is on the timelines. So that was it. Like I said, now we get to see where the rubber meets the road.
Yep, thanks for raising that issue, Jason. As many of us have discussed in the past, we all want an efficient border, and Gustavo's made this point, but it really needs to be efficient for everyone, not simply a narrow sector of the community that can afford a Century Pass or other ways to get across easily. So a lot of work to do at addressing the social equity issue in terms of the border crossing, plus the larger transportation issue. And I think SANDAG is moving in an excellent direction on that. Do we have other
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
questions or comments?
You have Gustavo Lafuente and then followed by Greg Mallinger. And if I can just add, Mr. Chairman, this Friday, the board of directors is going to be reviewing for the final occasion the regional plan that includes some of these projects that in fact are moving much faster than in previous plans. So there are a lot of information. If you want to be attending the meeting, is open to the public this Friday at the board of directors. And so with this, Gustavo Lafuente followed by Greg Mallinger.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Zach, thank you very much for that presentation. I had a question for you. When are you anticipating that this project would be ready for operation? How many, couple years, maybe 3 years?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that question up. I've been thinking about this project a lot in a temporal kind of lens. So we know the mobility hub, just saying that word for a lot of people makes it seem like, oh, this may not happen for another 25, 30 years. Maybe I'll be a, elderly by the time I get to use this new mobility hub. With that said, that's kind of at the forefront of the thinking for this project, which I'm going to be help leading. But basically, this is kind of how I'll summarize, but the first 5-6 months of this work, you can expect Sandag and our project partners to be pretty laser focused on packaging improvements that are going to be slated for construction in the near term. So we're not even necessarily getting to mobility hub planning quite yet for the first half of this initial work. So that's kind of born out of this understanding that there's a lot of hazards there that exist currently. There's a lot of pedestrian safety issues. There's a lot of circulation issues, mobility issues, and those are things that we want to address much sooner rather than later. But with that said, it still remains to be seen what those near-term improvements are gonna all include. I can tell you that we're really keen on having a package of improvements that we can turn on in the next few years. So kind of TBD exactly what those improvements are gonna look like. But I guess the summary is that we're really keen on making improvements kind of as soon as we can. And I've been speaking and kind of strategizing with folks internally at Sandag, and we think, obviously, say the San Ysidro Transit Center in that area checks a lot of boxes when it comes to federal grant opportunities, state grant opportunities, when it comes to kind of strategizing money that we can get to expedite engineering, permitting, all the kind of requisite things that you need to get a project built. So I can say that that's a big emphasis for us.
Let me just follow up with a comment about, and I haven't mentioned this to the group yet, but I'm wearing two hats today. So one hat, as you know me in terms of the Smart Border Coalition. The other hat I'm wearing is that I have also been working with the state of Baja California as far as their international strategy director within the Economy and Innovation Secretariat. And David Perez Tejada is also joining me. I think he might be a public call there, but he is doing this on the public relations side as well. So we're both together as a team working with Kurt Honnold there, the secretary. And I will say that what I have heard from Governor Avila, that she's very interested in this project. She's well aware of the project. She's very interested in this happening because, as everybody knows here, most people who are crossing that border and will be using that facility are coming from Mexico and are coming from Baja California. And so it is an important strategic project to follow up on in terms of what the state of Baja California wants to do. And we will keep tabs on it. We will be informing the state governor and the Secretary Honnold as to what's going on there. So that's kind of part of our job. And I just wanted to let the group know that. Thank you.
Great, Zach. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm a frequent border crosser. Super excited, of course, to have the trolley now coming to UC San Diego. I took the first trip a couple of weeks ago, and I guess my concern is, of course, trying to limit the amount of time it takes to get from Tijuana to UCSD. My experience is about 2 hours door to door. And one of the things that definitely was apparent to me was trying to get from my house in Tijuana to the border. I know, and this is actually dovetails on what Gustavo is saying. Is there any collaboration or work with our colleagues in Tijuana on trying to figure out and facilitating ways to get folks to the border that don't want to drive? I mean, obviously I could drive across the border and then park at a trolley station, but that then of course would then just jump over your whole mobility hub here at the border. So I want to take advantage of all the new great things that's going on, and I think that's one aspect that we should be focusing on, is getting folks from Tijuana to the border in an efficient manner. Thanks.
Do we have other comments?
Yes, you have one from the public is Mitch Bishop.
Mitch?
Sorry, Mitch, you're able to unmute yourself now.
I recall when I was MTDB director, about 20 years ago, we opened the new hub down there. And it's interesting to see how some of the things we left out in those days are turning around to bite us, mainly people crossing on the Sentry in their vehicles and people crossing on foot without Sentry, and them trying to get together and everybody's lining up on Railroad Court, and it's a big issue there. Also, we arranged, because we at the time, after I was a director or MTS director, private party, got the desert line open, and we had $10 million from Congressman Filner, and that all got sucked up by Sandag at the San Ysidro yard, which has turned out to be an ethanol transload facility. It's a lovely yard, but it's not being used for anything else other than that, really, and the few loads that cross, of course, the border. One thing that I'm really interested in is when they did open Ped West, and it was functional pre-COVID, it was a great thing, because people just were hesitant to go over there, and you could cross there faster and then walk over. And they had the buses that would shuttle if you were lucky to catch one. But I would hope, Zach, that you have your consultant look at the coordination between Ped Est and Ped East, and the comment of getting people on the Tijuana side up to feed in there. Usually when I cross, I just go to downtown to make payments to help some people that I help down there. And I just take a taxi and it drops me right off about 3 blocks, and I walk up to the line and get in there. But that's a big issue. Another issue that maybe in the back of people's head in the twilight days of Governor Bonilla, he threw this project called the Train Urbano. And I say that in a gringo kind of way, because it's my contacts at Baja California Railroad tell me it's a dead project. So if you want to have the train like we could get from East Berlin to West Berlin and in those old days, I don't see it happening. It's not a concept that's not realistic if you can get past our old buddies there at the border. So you got a big job, Zach. I think there's going to be a lot of land condemnations, like when we put the Mission Valley line in on the trolley. We took a lot of property to get that thing to work, and it was a big fight. And the guy at the McDonald's is not going to be happy. So, but you got to get more land. There's just not enough room down there right now.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to our next presentation now. I'd like to welcome our colleague and member of Cobra, Jason Wells, who will share with us a strategy to ensure the recovery of the San Ysidro community from the impacts caused by COVID-19 and the border restrictions. I also wanted to express thanks to Jason for being on the issue of the border restrictions from day one and not letting up, and eventually getting the rest of the community in San Diego on board. And hopefully we'll move to a better place after those restrictions. Jason, are you here?
I am here. Not you're here, but my here. Okay. Zach, I think do you have the presentation? Okay. So Hector had asked me that he got wind of our recovery plan, and I really have to think, I believe she's on the call, our board president, Jennifer Godot, through her leadership, the rest of the board, when we were stuck for 22 months with our businesses not operating, we were doing what we can and handing out sanitizer gels and 6-foot stickers and everything. And so they really gave me the direction of, okay, we're doing what we can now, but while we're waiting to reopen, let's look at recovering once that happens. So that's what we have in front of us. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. So this is these are 2 pages on just the way PowerPoint set up. It came out this way, but so we came up with the recovery plan, and basically there's 4 axes, if you will. San Ysidro optimized, simplified, quantified, and beautified. Don't worry, there's a lot of points. We're not going to go over a bunch of detail in most of them, but looking at optimized, starting a pilot project in San Ysidro, where we can help businesses go on to e-commerce. You know, we're San Ysidro, we're always going to be there for the border crosser. That's why we're on the map. But if I can augment businesses' revenues by 20–30% through the internet sales, then next time something like this happens, you know, maybe they lay off 5 less people, or maybe they're able to survive 3 more months, you know, that type of thing. So this is one of the most important pieces, and we're going to go through this one in detail in a moment. But creating the internet backbone. So I was able to leverage what we want to do with that program with an internet provider to be able to provide free internet for the entire San Ysidro Boulevard, our entire business improvement district area. Next, dedicated resource staff. So through a partnership with Civic San Diego, we were able to hire 1 more staff member, a paid internship, whose sole role here is to connect businesses with resources available. So as part of our recovery plan is to actually be able to fund that position past the contract we have with Civic San Diego. Creating San Ysidro parking district. Any of you that have been down here know that any cars parked on San Ysidro Boulevard, they're not shoppers. These are people that went across the border and not pay for parking lots, or sometimes employees. So we are actually working with the city to create a parking district. So basically metering parking on our main corridors. In those, obviously those funds then will be going back to parking and security related issues for San Ysidro. Next, responsible money exchange. The responsible money exchange in San Ysidro. This really has two products, if you will. One, it's around the holiday season where you often get complaints from individuals that went to money exchanges, and they say no commissions charged, but then they get charged a customer service fee or something like that. They have people with tears in their eyes in my office. So what we've done is actually taken gotten those members that are the money exchanges that don't do those types of things, and then created a committee where they work on kind of peer pressure to make sure everybody's doing what they say they do. We're also using that group to create signage to stop some of those loopholes that are allowing people to make charges when they're saying that they don't. The Technical Assistance Council, that is made up of board members and large business members. That if we have marketing experts on there and somebody needs marketing issues, those types of things. So just using the talent that we have within our leadership to specifically for no additional charge, right, help our businesses that are struggling to get back on their feet. That's San Ysidro optimized, excuse me. Actually, let's go to the next slide. So this is specific to the optimized program. Next slide. We're going to go through this pretty quickly. Okay, so a lot of this is this is statistics about what has happened. Go next slide. Next slide. Yeah, here's just some stats in a general sense on retail, conventional retail versus online retail. The growth you can see there and stats. Next slide. Okay, so for major services, online business listings, the health audit, the creation for online sales, and then the design elements. Next slide. So here, now we're getting into some of the meat and potatoes. So what we want to do is this pilot program will help 100 businesses. This is at no cost to the businesses whatsoever. Okay. The goal is to increase sales of the participants by at least 20%. And let me see, looking at BIPOC businesses, women BIPOC minority businesses, majority, which is what it is here in San Ysidro. And the goal is to create enough positive results that we actually serve and make this program not just a pilot, but a larger program throughout San Diego. Next slide, please. So this is just many of the ways that they're going to be that the company we hire will be working with the businesses. Next slide. Okay, so to give you a walkthrough, basically what's going to happen, these 100 businesses, our subcontractor will go into the business, they do an audit. So they look at everything from number of employees, what the sales are, what they pay in electricity, what their rent is, etc. So that this is all then can be measured once they get online, measure the actual success or not of this. And so when we as the chamber are putting this on, and then whoever the funders are will get these dashboards. Each business gets their own dashboard as well. So each business will go on and be able to look and say, hey, over the last 6 months of using this program, sales have went up by so much. I was able to hire this many more employees, or we've been able to create these efficiencies, etc. And then we will get the dashboard for the 100 businesses. That's great. Go next. So some of the impacts that this will have, it's obviously they've got online business listings. Our subcontractor will actually create the e-commerce platform. So when they go and do this audit, they're going to look at the businesses or the products and service that the company sells and decide, okay, which one should be online, and if so, which platform should they be on. They'll also help them with online ads, social media, finance services. They give them the merchant services. This is really built for a mom and pop that sells Chinese sweatpants, to wholesale prices, right, to the public. This is built for them to be able to get on the internet and have all the tools that they'll need. This pilot program includes a year long of handholding of these businesses, within the program. Next slide, please. Okay, this is what I mentioned before, leverage partnership. We were actually able to work with Jelly Digital to, once this program is launched, to actually have free website or free internet, for our business corridor. Next slide. And okay, let's go to the next slide. Some of their partners there. Go to the, okay, very good, at this slide. So that's the optimized section in a whole, or in a sense. The next area is San Ysidro simplified. So looking at the creation of Bridge Deck Park, which we'll kind of go over in a second, launching of our chamber app, which we've done. This allows businesses, or excuse me, the public to get to businesses, get to services, get around San Ysidro in a much more easy fashion. Advocate for San Ysidro Mobility Hub, which we've been doing today. Executing a vaccination partnership with San Ysidro Health. As a matter of fact, they're in our driveway right now. So every Tuesday and Friday, San Ysidro Health comes and does free vaccinations for anybody that comes up. Reestablishing a pedicab industry. Just very quickly, for those that don't know, pedicabs used to be a thriving industry here in San Ysidro, to get you from point A to point B. The San Diego Police took over the program, and within that, it was found that the definition of what's needed for them to operate wasn't listed. So we worked with Assemblywoman Gonzalez, and I'm happy to say earlier this year we wrote and was able to get passed a bill that has the language that will allow pedicabs to come back to San Ysidro. So right now we're just working with the city of San Diego to adopt that language and get them back coming. We expect this to happen early 2022. Next slide. I mentioned the bridge deck. So basically, if those of you that know San Ysidro, if you look at the top diagram, this is very, very elementary diagram. But what you're seeing there, the curved line is the Camino de la Plaza, the bridge for vehicles, Camino de la Plaza. To your left would be Las Americas, to your right would be our office. Below that, the straight line, that's the east-west pedestrian bridge that was first built as part of the port of entry reconfiguration. So the idea is basically to join those two bridges with the cover, kind of what you see over the 15th and University. Although instead of transit hubs, we want to use these as areas, green areas. They're areas that are placed to kind of bring together the two sides of San Diego. There'll be some commercial opportunities, respite for pedestrians that may have crossed, etc. what you see below that, we were actually able to get this into GSA's plans as kind of a give back to the community for land that was taken. Unfortunately, when the administrator left, so did this piece from GSA's plans. So as part of our Recovery Act, we're actually bringing this back. And I don't have an optical for this, but what we're working on doing is getting us all, including this group, when we talk about the mobility hub in San Ysidro, we want to talk about the mobility hub in San Ysidro with this bridge deck right next to it, with the Bayshore border bikeway link that's right to the right of this, with a program or an idea that the concept that we have for San Ysidro Boulevard, where we're creating outdoor pedestrian plazas along the sides of the street, to talk about all of those as a whole, as a single project. Next slide. Going back, or then going to San Ysidro Quantified, implementing a pedestrian counting program. We're working with the subcontractor right now, right now, that will either implement cameras or utilize existing cameras to be able to count pedestrians. So as you all know, I get a number every month from CBP as far as how many people cross the border. We also know, because of MTS, how many people get on the trolley. But what this will enable us to do is know, okay, but then how many people of those left are going to the outlets versus San Ysidro Boulevard? And of those that are going to San Ysidro Boulevard, how many get this far down and how many get this far down? Why is this important for our recovery? Because as we bring in businesses to replace those that have demised, we can help them in their placement depending on what they need as far as foot traffic and so forth. I'm trying not to go too detailed because there's too many points here. The border wait time living surveys. So we have that going. It's on our app and it's on our website, where people can give, kind of like Como está la línea Tijuana, no? Where people can give their actual accounts of what happened today. We're trying to get them trained to not just say lines were long today, but to say I was in vehicle lane 23 at this time in the afternoon and the line was that one. So that way, when we complain to CBP, that it's just not a blanket complaint, but an actual measured product. We in Quantified, we also have we put together the last 20 years in border traffic history. The direct call campaign, if any of you have seen us on the news or so forth, talking about how many jobs were lost and how much business was lost, this was because of several rounds of 800 calls each, where we got the data directly from the businesses in order to quantify what's been happening to us. We want to use the same system to quantify it, how we recover from this and grow in the future. The CBP Oversight Committee, that's old language. It's not a committee that we're looking for, but it's all based, and I heard this being discussed at the beginning of the conversation. And we're going to come back with an ask, if not to Cobra, then to Borders, to get the San Diego or SANDAG board itself. We need to take a position with CBP that they go back to what we were able to create in the Burson area, not only mantra, but execution of balancing communities with security. You can't have one without the other. And although they love it when we fight amongst ourselves about getting them more manning or which technologies will help or building OTI 2, the bottom line is that guy in the booth or woman in the booth needs to know that they've got 10 seconds to get a warm fuzzy, and if not, send the person to secondary. That's how we grow as a regional, as a binational region. Then lastly, San Ysidro Beautified. So this block-to-block facelift, we have a group that's called the Border Public Arts Committee. There's about 7 East San Ysidro Boulevard blocks, 5 West San Ysidro Boulevard blocks. The reason that's important, there's 12. We can do one a month. That's, we get the whole boulevard done in a year. But it's taking artists, police department, the DA personnel, and every month we visit a different block and see what can be done to beautify that block. The reason the DA and the police are involved is because maybe there are things that can be done on a beautification sense that actually help crime, lowering bushes or adding cameras or what have you. And then the artists are there because where there's opportunity, not everybody block's gonna have a mural, but maybe there's a sculpture opportunity. Maybe there's a place for live arts to happen. So we're going block by block to see how to beautify, clean, and increase the security at each block. Advocating Bayshore to border bikeway. We've been told for years that this was done, paid for, and ready to go, but it just hasn't happened yet. So keeping the pressure on that to happen this year. Historic Highway 101 program. Many may not know, but basically where the trolley tracks are to the west of the trolley tracks where they end today was the beginning of Highway 101. I went up San Ysidro Boulevard until you get to Bayer, and then it follows Bayer Boulevard all the way up to Palm. So we're working with Caltrans in the state to get the signage and whatever else we can get with that program designation. And then increasing our street cleaning program. We are a business improvement district. Many will have you believe that means there's a lot of money coming in now. It means $150,000 a year. And right now, more than half of that's being spent on our current cleaning project. So as far as our recovery plan, we want to actually increase what we do with that cleaning program. And so I hope I was fast enough not to bore you to death, but slow enough where you understood what we're looking at doing. And thanks for the invitation, Hector. If there's any questions, I can take them.
Thanks. Any questions, Hector or Zach?
I don't see a hand raised right now. Let's wait till someone raise their hand. But apparently no.
Okay, I guess I explained it very well then.
Yeah, as usual. Well, we'll hear about it again later in the year, how you're progressing on everything. But congratulations, it's a terrific plan and well organized and looks very doable. Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's move on now to a presentation on the State of Baja California Institute of Sustainable Mobility, or IMOS in Spanish. And I think we probably have Raul Corona, who's the Director of Mobility at IMOS, to present. Jorge Gutierrez had been set up to do that, but I think he is in transit somewhere. So Raul, are you there? And welcome.
Sí, muy buenas tardes. El director general no pudo estar hoy. La gobernadora le mandó llamar. Entonces me pidió que pudiera estar presente con ustedes para poder presentarle cuáles han sido los avances del Instituto de Movilidad y cómo se estructuró, puesto que es un instituto de muy reciente creación. Sí, entonces, hace 2 años se traspasó el transporte de los municipios al estado. Principalmente todo esto era derivado como los municipios empezaron a integrar ya de manera metropolitana, principalmente en la zona metropolitana de Tijuana, Rosarito y Tecate, y el transporte lo administraban los municipios. No había criterios unificados entre todos los municipios. Entonces se tomó la decisión de que el transporte se pasara al estado y se crearan criterios unificados en todo el estado para darle certeza a las personas. Y dentro de los procesos en los cuales se creó tanto la ley de movilidad ya a nivel estado y el Instituto de Movilidad del Estado, que iba a ser el ejecutor de la ley, pues el antecedente era de que nos íbamos a basar principalmente en lo que era el derecho a la ciudad y los elementos de desarrollo de los ODS y en los elementos básicos de la sustentabilidad. Entonces ahorita presentamos ahí el derecho a la ciudad y es como nos hemos fundamentado y ha sido como hemos desarrollado las primeras líneas de acción para poder organizar y darle certeza jurídica al sistema de transporte de Baja California, que antes no había o mínimo no estaba organizado todos. Entonces, como les comento, hace año y medio se publicó la Ley de Movilidad Sustentable y Transporte del Estado. Entonces, unificamos todos los criterios de transporte en la manera más lógica posible, donde al usuario se le pudiera dar la mayor certeza de que él pudiera estar de Tijuana, luego a Tecate, Rosarito, Ensenada, y siempre fueran las mismas reglas del juego y que los transportistas pudieran competir y darle mejor servicio al usuario. Entonces se creó todo un nuevo marco normativo y regulatorio para poder planear, regular, controlar, vigilar y gestionar tanto la movilidad como el transporte público y privado, porque antes no se regulaba el transporte privado. Entonces ya esta nueva legislación nos dio la capacidad de poder empezar a regular todas estas demás cosas que antes no se observaban. Entonces, hemos estado un año y medio empezando a ordenar principalmente. Apenas estamos ahorita empezando a entrarle a proyectos, como comentó el compañero, del tema de la ruta violeta transporte para mujeres, pero el primer año y medio nos dedicamos a regular unas cuestiones enormes. Siguiente, por favor. Entonces, ¿cuál fue el objetivo del instituto cuando lo empezamos a desarrollar? Pues la intención era favorecer la movilidad urbana y fortalecer la gestión del transporte en todas sus modalidades. Nos dimos cuenta que todos los municipios, por su bagaje histórico y que cada municipio traía su propia tendencia de movilidad, cada uno generó sus diferentes modalidades, sus diferentes lógicas, sus diferentes normatividades. Tuvimos que todos organizarlos en una misma lógica. Entonces, eso fue lo que se dedicó el instituto, a armonizar y poner unas reglas claras en todo el estado. Entonces, así era mucho más fácil la planeación integral de la movilidad de transporte en Baja California. Siguiente. Entonces, cuando generamos la ley de movilidad, traíamos algunos criterios básicos y esenciales para poder nosotros ya empezar a trabajar. El primerito pues, es la accesibilidad, que nosotros, obviamente, como lo indicó el compañero, se considera la pirámide de la movilidad, donde los primeros usuarios y la prioridad es el peatón y las personas con alguna clase de discapacidad. En uno de los proyectos que ahorita está trabajando con la nueva administración, es un diagnóstico de todas las banquetas, la peatonabilidad de toda la zona urbana de California, para poder darle certeza a ese objetivo de la ley de movilidad. Igual el respeto al medio ambiente, estamos buscando el uso de tecnologías sustentables y herramientas amigables. Ahorita traemos igual conversaciones con una empresa de transporte masivo para implementar buses con tecnologías alternativas, pero apenas estamos en charlas y ha sido un planteamiento muy interesante. Siguiente. En materia de desarrollo económico, que igual es uno de los elementos básicos de ahí de nuestra nueva ley, se busca hacer un reordenamiento de la red de transporte. Pues casi todas las rutas de transporte circulaban todas sobre las mismas vialidades y generaban una sobrecompetencia y una sobreoferta, lo cual generaba un efecto muy negativo sobre el tráfico y pulverizaba la oferta. Entonces, a la hora que estamos haciendo un reordenamiento de la ruta de transporte, se le puede dar mejor servicio al usuario y el operador del transporte va a tener mejor garantía de su inversión. Entonces, es un ganar-ganar y ahorita estamos haciendo los estudios para poder generar un reordenamiento de toda la red. Más adelante, la perspectiva de género, ahorita por una instrucción directa de la gobernadora, se nos estudió generar el sistema integral de movilidad para las mujeres, donde vamos a integrar diferentes modalidades de transporte, no nomás el bus, sino algunas herramientas para la prevención de hostigamiento, de violencia comunitaria a las mujeres, no nomás en transporte público, sino en su movilidad peatonal o respuesta a mujeres que han sido víctimas de agresión en todo el sistema de movilidad. Entonces, ahorita estamos implementando todas esas estrategias y ahorita el primer paso fue el autobús violeta, pero estamos trabajando de la mano con el Instituto de la Mujer de Baja California. Pues la participación ciudadana pues es un elemento crucial y derivado de las diferentes quejas de las usuarias, de los acercamientos que hemos tenido con las usuarias de la ruta de Centro Presa, donde ellas nos manifestaban de que eran muy frecuentemente víctimas de acoso o de que había diferentes situaciones de agresión. Se hicieron diferentes estudios técnicos donde se analizó la factibilidad de implementar este autobús y nos dieron los números, se hizo una serie de estudios y se implementó escuchando a la ciudadanía y no en todos los polígonos se podrá implementar, pero de la mano de la ciudadanía, los técnicos y la facilidad operativa y financiera se pudo implementar. Entonces fue un muy buen trabajo ciudadano técnico y a nosotros nos dio poder implementar eso. Pues como comentaba, la ley se fundamenta principalmente sobre la pirámide de la movilidad, siempre dándole prioridad a los sistemas más sustentables, los modos más sustentables de movilizarse, principalmente las personas con discapacidad, las personas que se mueven de manera personal, seguido por las personas que utilizan la bicicleta o utilizan vehículos no motorizados. Luego, pues, el transporte masivo, luego se carga y al final el automóvil particular, puesto que es el que genera mayor satisfacción al medio ambiente, también ocupa la mayor parte de la vialidad, por lo que representa una consecuencia más inequitativa para el sistema de movilidad. Entonces, bajo ese principio, empezamos a ordenar ya el nuevo sistema de movilidad bajo esta nueva ley y este nuevo instituto. ¿Okay? Al mismo tiempo, el 25 de octubre, hace mes y medio, se publicó el Plan Sectorial de Movilidad y Transporte para Baja California. Es un instrumento de planeación donde tiene la visión de aquí a 20 años sobre cuál debe ser la política pública en materia de movilidad sustentable. Ya está publicado y ya tiene un carácter normativo de cómo se deben implementar todos los sistemas sustentables de autobuses, sistemas integrados, tecnologías y la perspectiva de género. Es un estudio que es un documento que nos tomó alrededor de un año y medio, tiene distintas líneas de acción y ahorita está en un proceso también de evaluación continuo actualización, porque sabemos que es un documento vivo y que se tiene que estar siempre perfeccionando, pero ahorita ya está en ejecución. Bien. A ver.
Well, thank you very much, Raul. Excellent plan. I just wanted to mention that there is a website that Cobra members and others can check. If you just Google EMOS, Baja California, the website should come up and you can get more information on the agency. Do members of Cobra have any comments now, or members of the public? If so, turn on your camera or raise your hand.
I don't see hands raised. There is one from the members of the committee. Is Nora Marquez in plan.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes, gracias. Bueno, hola Raúl. Nada más te escuché un poquito cortado y me quedé con la duda. ¿Este programa ya lo tienen o está por iniciar?
¿Cuál?
El plan sectorial de movilidad.
Ya se publicó.
¿Por qué? ¿En qué momento, perdón?
El 25 de octubre.
¿De este año?
Uh-huh.
Muy bien. Ok, ¿está en tu página?
Debe de estar. Si
Muy
no,
bien.
se lo comparto a usted. Le pido el contacto al arquitecto Gutiérrez y se lo mando a usted directamente. Igual
Perfecto.
ahorita estamos en un proceso de actualización. Como traemos la instrucción del Comité de Planeación de Desarrollo del Estado de actualizarnos a los objetivos que determine la gobernadora en su Plan Estatal de Desarrollo.
Muy bien. Ok, es todo. Muchísimas gracias.
Do we have other comments or questions?
I don't see hands raised.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Raul. We appreciate your presentation and look forward to interacting with you in the future, because certainly your efforts on urban mobility are critical, and the linkages with Sandag's mobility transportation plans is important to our region. I'd like to move then to item number 6, which is upcoming meetings. Our next Cobra meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 1st, 2021 at 3 p.m. I'm not sure at this point whether that will be virtual or in person, but we will hear from staff about that. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today and have a great holiday season. The best to end 2021 and begin 2022, and be safe out there. And thanks again for the staff for organizing and making this meeting possible. Talk to you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much for hosting.
Muchísimas gracias a todos.